It's Monday, and Mondays are for squats. This is the work I like to do after my main squats. So did a little bit of skill work, just playing around with balance. Did some deep tier plyos based around the squat. And then I did some back squatting. All of that took me in total about 15 minutes. And now here we are. This is the stamina portion. And so you can see I'm doing these med ball squats. This ball is 90 pounds and pretty good sized med ball. There's not a lot of med balls that are 90 pounds. We have another one here, or it's a sandbag really. It's 200. And that's a little too unwieldy for me. But I'm gonna start working my way towards it. So really just trying to develop this bigger view of strength, which I came out from being a lot of a generalist and saying, don't just chase specific numbers on specific movements, but doing heavy squatting, it is fun to chase squat numbers. And same thing with deadlift, same thing with bench press. But lately I've been trying to widen my training back out. So I dove deeper into those ones, and now I'm kind of widening back out to a general sense. There's nothing wrong chasing a heavy back squat. In fact, I think it's one of the best things that you can do to improve your overall strength. There is a line where your strength stops to be general and starts to be specific when you do chase down certain numbers, right? So the goal here for me, and I'm still working my back squat, but this is the stamina work afterwards, right? So this is really for me to prolong that, push it out, give myself a little bit of a different stimulus. Anterior loaded squats challenge you in a different way than a back squat. So I just include them both. So right now, the back squat is more the strength-based squat, and these med ball squats are the stamina-based squat. When I get to the end of the training cycle I'm currently in, then I'll be working on heavy front squats for my main strength development for squats, and I'll be working more volume with the back squat. So the idea just being, I don't stop lifting, I actually try to bring up what constitutes as stamina and what constitutes as strength. For instance, if today you can only max at 225 on a squat, and a few months from now you can do that, you can hit it for 10 singles in 10 minutes. So I said most of my training is at AMRAP, so you can obviously see that right now. Then maybe it becomes 10 triples in 10 minutes. Maybe one day you're doing 10s to 5 in 10 minutes. That 225, it's really gone more from being strength work to stamina work. And it's pretty rare to see your 1 rep max become that big of stamina work, but the closer you can push from that original 1 rep max to make it stamina work. It's probably because you've brought up your squats quite a bit. So you bring up the high end, you bring up the low end, right? For me, I'm a floor first person. And to bring up the floor, I think that's where the generalism really kicks in. So I work on things like this to really just create a wider and wider base instead of specializing in that back squat. The back squat numbers will come, but for 225 to become that level of endurance work, you're probably squatting close to 400. If not, I know that I can do 5 sets of 5 in 5 minutes with 225. It's hard, but it's not too challenging. That's the style of training that I like, is the EMOMs. I can pretty much link out like this is exactly how long my workout's going to be, and it also allows me to challenge myself. So as I watch ones become threes, I watch threes become fives. That to me it's always a win. So what I could do 10 sets of 5 with in 10 minutes, is now what I used to be able to do 10 sets of 3 with. It's a huge mental win. It's like a new PR, right? It's not a 1 rep max PR, but it is my PR for that specific structure. By keeping that specific structure, I can always see the gain as opposed to switching things up too much with different rep ranges. So we're 8 sets down. Whew. I also think when you have something like this, your identity will become really tied to your back squat frequently as you're chasing the numbers. But if you give yourself unique variations, same thing with front squat, because it's just easily loaded movements. But you do something like this, and suddenly it's like I don't have a number that I'm tied to. I just know that it's giving me a stimulus. To do this, it's like my options are 90 and 200. So I'm not tied to 135 pound med ball. I just know that that's providing me with a stimulus, and that's a stimulus that is making me better. Might not be my 1 rep max, but my strength is becoming more robust, right? And so from that general sense, so bring up the big numbers, bring up your squat numbers, your deadlift numbers, your bench press, your overhead press, your weighted chin up. Bring up all these things, but also start to bring up things that are not seen as the main movements, right? If you're not a power lifter, the big 3 aren't as important. They're not your sport. But they do tend to be the ones that you can load the heaviest. So load them, get really strong in them, and strength is going to grow in other places. But then also find these corners that you're not strong in. Find these areas that didn't develop super well or that emphasize a different area. For some people, a front squat might be more intensive on their midsection than it is on their legs. That's fine. Now you have a stronger midsection for your big lifts that you are counting a lot of. That was 10 sets. You can hear I'm pretty gassed out from that, especially once again trying to talk not collecting as much oxygen as I could be. Instead, I'm using it to talk to you. Thank you, my 7 loyal subscribers. And keep pushing those limits. So bring up the big ones. Don't neglect the corners, because oftentimes, you're going to stagnate eventually with the big ones. You're going to hit everything as high as you can develop it, just going with the big 3. Talk about accessory exercises. Well, here you go. Here's a squat accessory. It's a med ball loaded front squat. It's probably going to be more quads than you're used to. It's probably going to be more midsection than you're used to. Especially, and I should say, I'm going to caveat that, not the med ball specifically. The med ball specifically for me is building more stamina throughout my legs. Like my quads are pretty burnt between this and the deep tier plyos and the squat. And sorry, got something in my eye. Just sweat, stingy sweat. So that will find these areas that they emphasize differently than your traditional big 3. Same way you might do a wide grip or close grip bench press, depending on what the lack is. Same way you'd do a pause bench. That's not as much like, oh, this emphasizes these muscles differently, but it's the same muscles. But when you're pausing, now you're getting rid of that nice stretch reflex that helps that bench press up. So that is its own different stimulus. So what we're looking for is same but different. People will put in, hey, you have pushing, pulling, hinging, squatting, and like everybody kind of makes up their own. Some people say lunging, some people say loaded carries, some people add both. I like squat, hinge, push, pull, horizontal, push, pull, vertical for strength movements. But then noting that they're not the end all be all. Strength is not the only thing. You also want to include some basic acrobatic. You also want to include some strength stretching. You also want to include some balance, coordination, etc. work. You should be jumping. You should be sprinting. If you don't use them, you do lose them. I'd like to be, in 10 years, 9 years, I'd like to be the most athletic 40-year-old that I've ever met. And that doesn't start at 40. That's here and now and moving the dial forward. So continue to work on all the different things. Do your traditional strength work. Do these accessories here. Do your gymnastics work. Do your some sort of coordination work. Don't neglect the track. The track is awesome. Jump. Because once again, if you don't jump, you don't sprint, eventually you won't be able to. And then do some loaded stretching. So if you really want to bulletproof your body, as they say, which is a misnomer, train heavy, train under stretch, train fast. And that's how you're going to prepare your body for the most amount of things that could possibly happen to it. Anyway, I've got to get one more set for the gram and work on my front split. Peace out.